Okay, and we're live. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, our guest is Father Bob Coleman, Catholic priest, PKD patient. Four of eight of his siblings have PKD. He's on his 10th year as a dialysis patient. And he opted out of a kidney transplant when he was younger, and he does a lot of dialysis traveling. So please give a warm welcome to our friend Father Bob. Father Bob is a Catholic priest ordained from the Archdiocese of Chicago. He is retired and lives in a retirement community for priests. He is active in a ministry in a nearby parish. He has 7 siblings that are alive and 1 deceased. Of the 8, 4 of them have polycystic kidney disease or PKD. He is one of the 4 with PKD. 2 of his brothers have had kidney transplant. He and his brothers inherited the disease from their mother. His family has been dealing with PKD all of their lives. His mother died shortly after she was 57 years old. Bob has seen his aunts, uncles, and cousins pass from PKD. Father Bob was diagnosed with PKD when he was 40 years old. At the time, the doctors told him that he'd have to keep his weight down and his blood pressure low, and then maybe he would end up on dialysis in his 50s. Well, the doctors were wrong. He made it to age 68 before he started dialysis. He was offered a kidney from one of his non-affected sisters, but, quote, I decided to live with dialysis, unquote. Bob has never missed an appointment, and on December 10th or 15th of this year will be the 10th anniversary of his being on dialysis. All things considered, his health is very good. He makes good use of his time, and he's active and lives in a positive manner. He likes to travel. Recently, he had international travel in Mexico. Please give a warm welcome to our friend Father Bob. Father Bob, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. Dad. You covered it all, Jim. You covered it all. So,
all right. Did I get everything right in the introduction?
You got everything right.
Okay. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education experience, and your employment experiences.
I grew up in the southwest side of Chicago in a Irish, Italian, Polish neighborhood, and we went to the Catholic grammar school in the area, and then I went to Brother Rice High School on the south side, a boys' Catholic high school. Worked when I was in high school and did all the activities in high school. And then after high school, I went to a junior college for 2 years. Then I took a course in computer programming. And this is back in 1969. And I like to tell people if I stayed with it, I would have been the next Bill Gates. But anyway, so I did that. And then I was working in a part-time at Sears while I went to school. When I finished that course, I went to the Sears employment department and said, I just finished this course. Can I get a job in the computer room? And they said, yes, we have an opening. So I started, and then Uncle Sam called. I got drafted into the Army in July of 1970. And so I served my time almost 2 years. I didn't have to go to Vietnam or anywhere else else overseas, our unit looked like it was going to be shipped out to Vietnam. I was being trained as a field wireman, which means that you have to hook up the phones in the field, or whatever. And so our unit looked like we were going to be sent to Vietnam. I go, oh boy, we got to deal with this. But because the war was winding down, they were sending soldiers back from Vietnam. They didn't need any more over there, so we never went. So I pretty much stayed my whole time in Fort Hood, Texas. And then it was after I came out of the Army that I took my job back at Sears because I couldn't enter the seminary in the middle of the year. So I took my job back at Sears, and then 6 months later, I entered the seminary.
Okay. Just for the record, you are a Catholic priest?
That's correct. Correct. I went to St. Mary's the Lake Seminary in Mundelein, Illinois, that trains priests for, in my time, it was priests for the Archdiocese of Chicago. Now it's a national seminary. They have dioceses represented all over. They study there, and then they go back to their diocese.
Okay. I understand that you are currently retired and living in a community for priests, and that you do some work for a local parish. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a priest retirement home named Bishop Lying Retirement Home, named after a former auxiliary bishop in Chicago who got the idea we need a home for retired priests. And so he did a lot of the fundraising, and so this was built in the year 2000, and the priest started occupying it. And about 3 years ago, I was living in a parish. I thought I'd like to give it a try to live there. So then I came here to live, and there are about 16 of us who live here. There are 18 rooms, so we have 2 openings. And then, as you mentioned, I go to a nearby parish called St. James in Lamont, which is only 10 minutes away. And I celebrate Mass on Sundays during the week and help out. A pastor is also a good friend of mine. And so if he needs help on something, baptismal talk or whatever, I help him out. But it's not really strenuous and not really time consuming.
Okay. I understand that you have 8 siblings. Can you please tell us their first names?
Okay. John, who's deceased. Patrick, then there's me. My sister, Mary Jo, sister, Nancy, brother, Bill, and twins, Jim and Dick. Those last 2 are the ones who had transplants.
Okay. I understand that your brother Johnny, that's deceased, had PKD and did receive a kidney transplant before he passed away, and was extremely helpful to one of his cousins. That would be your sister Janice.
Cousin Janice.
Okay, cousin Janice. Okay, who began her battle with PKD after John. Please tell us a little bit about John and how he helped out Janice.
Yeah. Well, so John was diagnosed as PKD, and he went on dialysis. And I remember going to see him on dialysis. He said, "Well, I'll just have to live with it." But he was only on for about a year and a half when he was able to get a cadaver kidney. So he took the transplant, and he was doing fine. He was doing fine. And then he developed blood cancer and skin cancer. And then he really went downhill fast and passed away. When he died, the kidney was still working. So that's, the kidney was working, but the skin cancer took them, and at that time in the 90s, the anti-rejection drugs were quite powerful, so that might have had something to do with it. But from what I know about the story, that he went on his way because Janice, our cousin, was only in her 30s, so she was very young, and she needed to go on dialysis. And so John was very supportive to her and helping her and talking to her, encouraging her. She needed a lot of encouragement. And before she started dialysis, she got a transplant. So, but I know John was very supportive, would talk to her and encourage her.
Okay. I read that of your 8 siblings, 4 of them have had kidney transplants. Which 4?
No, just 2. The youngest ones, the twins, have had transplants. Oh, and then there's John. He had a transplant. Okay, and then there's me, who's on dialysis. So that's the 4.
And it's my understanding that those that were infected by PKD, they inherited that from your mother?
That's correct. That's correct. And I kind of had an idea about PKD when I was growing up, especially through one of my uncles. This is back in Uncle Jack. This is back in the, I think it was in the late 60s, early 70s, when he did home dialysis, and his wife, my aunt, had to be the one that was trained to stick him with the needles. It was a very primitive dialysis machine, not like they have now. And so I remember that was always in my mind. And so, so I just knew it was there as a possibility. And then when I turned 40, I said, well, I better get a complete physical. I hadn't had a physical in a while. I'll have a complete physical and see what the story is. So I did, and it was less than 2 days later, the doctor called me, and I kind of expected it. And I remember her talking, getting really worried. Well, you have cyst on your kidneys, and I thought, well, okay, what do I do? And that's when you mentioned earlier. She told me, well, keep your weight down. It had never been heavy, but keep the weight down, and then keep your blood pressure under control. I didn't have high blood pressure or low blood pressure, but and so I pretty much did that.
Okay.
And then as you mentioned also, Jim, that the doctor said, yeah, you'll probably start dialysis when you're in your 50s, mid 50s. Now that's not set in gold. I mean that's some people outlive their polycystic kidneys. So, but anyway, I made it to 68, and but just a luck of the draw. But in my family, many of them were on dialysis, late 40s, 50, like my mom, my brother. I mentioned Janice in her 30s, so it just I just lucked out to go make it to 68. And I have one cousin who passed away. He didn't want to go on dialysis, and he was in his mid 60s, and his wife gave him her kidney, and so he never had to go on dialysis, and he was in his mid 60s, ready to start dialysis.
Preemptive kidney transplant.
Correct.
Okay. Your family has been dealing with PKD all of your lives. Your mother died, according to my notes, when she was 57.
That's correct.
And you had aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters that all had PKD. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, whenever a cousin or an aunt or an uncle say, oh, they have PKD, we just, okay, well, we kind of expected it. I remember what really hit me, I had a aunt who was a nun, Sister Michael Mary, and she was in the Cincinnati Dominican order, and this was in the mid 60s. She died in 1966. She had polycystic kidneys, And at that time, the dialysis centers weren't as numerous as they are now. And so she said, "No, I don't want to go on the list waiting for dialysis and take some man who has a family or a woman who has a family, and so I'll just live with it," and meaning that she would die with it, and she did. She was probably in her 40s. I remember when she died, and that was the first time I realized, well, this is pretty close to home for all of us. So, and then so other aunts and uncles and cousins, when they would hear about the polycystic kidneys disease, and they said, okay, well, here's what we have to do. You have to deal with it, whatever. I have one of the brothers, one of the twins, who had a transplant. He found out about his polycystic kidneys in a hockey injury. He was playing hockey. He was in his 20s, and he ruptured his spleen, so he had to go to the hospital. And that's when they discovered he had the polycystic kidney disease. So, and also a nephew. That's the same thing. I think he had an injury playing hockey or whatever, and then he found out that he had the disease too. So yes, we've been dealing with it.
I got a note from Suzanne. She gave me kind of a rundown. She says, our grandmother died of PKD in 1948. She had children, 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls. All of them had some sort of PKD.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Mike, that's the lady that you mentioned that, right? And was on dialysis for a while, passed away. Uncle Jack died in 1972 of PKD. Uncle Bill died in 1978 of PKD and received a transplant in 1972. That's the year I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Mary Jane.
That's my mother.
That's your mom, okay. And her mother, Joan, the youngest, and Father Bob's grandmother, your grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
died in 2003. Is that what my note says? Okay. So you've had a very interesting family history with polycystic kidney disease.
Yes. And you mentioned my mother, she had 5 siblings, so there's 6 of them. 5 of them had polycystic kidneys. Her one brother did not. So that was 5 out of 6. Our family is, as I mentioned, 4 out of 8.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about your diagnosis. I understand. I can get there it goes. I understand that you were diagnosed when you were 40.
Correct.
What led to your diagnosis? Were there symptoms or problems, issues? How did it happen?
No symptoms at all. I was a healthy 40-year-old. But like I mentioned earlier, I hadn't had a physical in a while. So I said, I might as well have a complete physical, thinking that check everything. But in the back of my mind, I was really interested if I had polycystic kidneys. So it was a complete physical. And as I mentioned, then the doctor called me 2 days later and said, you have cysts on your kidneys.
Okay. We talked a little bit about this earlier. After you were diagnosed, you were told to keep your weight down, your blood pressure low. The doctor thought that there was a possibility that you might go on dialysis in your 50s, but you managed to hold them off until you were 68.
Mm-hmm,
Can you tell us how you did it?
I think it was just the luck of the draw. I don't know. I was a missionary in Mexico for 9 years. So a lot of those years before I went on dialysis. Now, some people think, well, maybe it was a diet, maybe because we get a lot of rice and a lot of chicken. I don't know, but some people say maybe it was a diet. So I think it was just the luck of the draw. Just some people last longer. We just don't know.
I understand that as of December 15th, you will have been on dialysis for 10 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. 10 years.
Something that surprised me in your bio when I read through it, one of your unaffected sisters offered to donate a kidney to you, but you opted out and decided to live with dialysis and to not go with a living kidney donor transplant. Can you please explain why?
I had a very good nephrologist who I had been seeing, and when it came time for dialysis, she kind of left it up to me. Doctors usually don't do that, but she said, "Well, you'll know when it's time for dialysis," and she told me the symptoms, and I said, "Okay, I'll watch for them," and I started feeling tired and some of the symptoms, so I called her and she, "Okay, it's time to start dialysis." So then after being on dialysis for a few months, I was talking to her and I mentioned, oh, my sister's offering a kidney. And I said, I would like to have a transplant, but on the other hand, I think I could live with dialysis because there's no perfect situation, whether it's transplant or dialysis or whatever. So I said, she said, well, whatever you decide. So I said, let me try dialysis. So I was on dialysis for a while, and it was working out pretty well. I managed to put in my schedule. I could semi-retire early, so it wasn't a burden. And I just started doing dialysis, and well, this is not too bad. I kind of learned to live with it. And so as the time went on and went on and went on, it just becomes second nature. I know my dialysis days, I have to be there and do it and just adjust to that. It is what it is.
Okay. And currently, where are you taking dialysis?
At a DaVita, about 10 minutes from where I live it's on LaGrange Road, so not too far from here. For many years, I was going to Loyola into the city because that was my hospital. And that's a good 30, 40-minute drive. And I thought, I think I'm going to change and go to one closer. So it's a DaVita.
Okay, so people understand when we talk about doing in-center hemodialysis, you're going 3 days a week, 4 hours a session,
3.5.
3.5 hours a session. Okay. And what do you do with yourself during that time?
Yeah, first of all, some people think, oh, isn't that painful? It's not painful. They put 2 needles in your arm. As we were talking earlier, they're big needles. They go into your arm. But once they're in there, it's fine. You're in a comfortable chair. The legs go up. So it's really no pain. And they really don't bother you. Once in a while, a nurse will come by and ask you something or check on something, but you're kind of, the time is yours. So I pray and I read. Sometimes I fall asleep. I know I was on dialysis with a lady. She would come in after work, go to her chair, fall asleep the whole 4 hours, and they had to wake her up, and she'd go home. So I could never just, I'm going to go to sleep. I would, when I doze, so sleep off. But, I love to pray the rosary, a beautiful prayer. And I'll have my prayer book with me that as priest, we pray certain prayers using scripture, and then I have a book to read, something, catch up on things. I'll uh, text people. I I take phone calls, but I try not to talk on the phone because it's not very private. You know, you're in a kind of public area, and so I'll tell the person I can't talk now. I'm on dialysis, but I can text back and forth. And sometimes I'll bring my computer and do something on the computer. I'm on a committee for retired priests, and sometimes I do a Zoom meeting just on the computer. And then there's a TV there, so I can catch up on the news, or there's cable stations if there's a good movie or something. And then I just want to add that there's he's a servant of God, not a saint. His name is Frank Duff. He founded a religious organization. And so I pray to him. There's a prayer in the back of it. I pray to him every day, and for a special intention that that my kidneys are healed or cured. So it's a prayer I've been saying for many years. Now, as we know, everything is in God's time. We can't say, well, how come it didn't happen? Well, everything is God's time. And I know one day my kidneys will be healed, if not in this life, in the life to come, because in heaven, the afterlife, there is no crutches or wheelchairs or kidney disease or any. So I hope that answers the question.
No, great job. Tell us a little bit about the current state of your health.
Well, I have irregular heartbeat, so that's being treated by medication, and the aches and pains of uh, old age. But I try to walk. I used to walk a lot more, but I find on dialysis days I'm pretty wiped out. Like today, I had dialysis today. So, but on non-dialysis days, I try to get a good walk in, and that helps. And I've always been active all my life in sports or different things, swimming, bike riding. Not so much, but I still, like I said, still walk. And other than that, my health is pretty good, and can't complain.
I understand that you like to travel, even though you're currently on dialysis, and you set up dialysis for yourself ahead of time. Can you describe for us some of the places that you've been?
Well, the only international travel since I've been on dialysis was Mexico. I have friends in Mexico, so I went there, and so I had to arrange the dialysis on my own at a place in Mexico, and it was a very good experience. It worked out well. Now, the thing about international travel is that they don't cover your insurance. I have very good insurance, Humana, and so international travel, like when I was in Mexico, I had to pay them with a credit card, where here I don't worry about it. Insurance takes care of it. So most of the travel is national, and mostly around the Midwest, visiting people or whatever. Well, I like to go to Phoenix. I have friends in Phoenix, and go there and stay there and do dialysis. So yeah, it's just I just didn't want it to be, well, the travel is good because it gets you out of routine of, I get up, take the dialysis day, get up, go to dialysis, come home, have something to eat, fall asleep in a chair. This way you're seeing different places, different things, and different centers. So it has an advantage to it, not just being tied down.
Suzanne sent me a note. She says Father Bob wants to do dialysis in as many states as possible. Are you trying to set a record?
No, as I told you earlier, Suzanne's, she's always talking to me about, oh, Father Bob, how many states now? I think it's 19. I think she would know better.
Wow.
In many of those states I've been to over and over again, like in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or whatever. But No, I have no set goal. I got to do other state. No, if there's something going on there, or a place to travel to, or whatever, I would go. But it's not. I'm not trying to do all 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii. Except though on my bucket list is to do the Alaskan cruise, which I heard so much good about it, and they do have dialysis on cruises. So if it's meant to be, we'll see.
Okay. We're in the home stretch here, Father Bob.
Okay.
Do you have any final statements that you would like to make to our audience before we conclude the broadcast for the evening?
Well, the only thing is that everybody has something to deal with, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, whatever. We all have something to deal with. And the best way we can do is put ourselves in the hands of God, trust in God, and do what we can on our part. Like if I were to say, I'm not going to do anything, well, I would die. So, okay, I trust in God, and whatever happens, and I will do my dialysis and go along. And if a transplant opportunity comes up, I would consider it. And so but we just have to be positive about whatever situation we have, because God didn't put us here to suffer, but to live fruitful and productive life. So we have to do the best we can. We have to cooperate.
Okay. Wow. Great final statement. Um, we're at a point, Father Bob, where you can leave if you wish to. I just have to button up
Okay.
with my audience who's coming on next week and that sort of thing. But I did want to say this has been a very powerful broadcast, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience has learned a lot too. And I thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences with us.
You're very welcome.
Great. On October 17th, which is our next scheduled broadcast, our guest is a lady, Jean Summers. Jean is a PKD patient and an active advocate for the PKD Foundation and the ACN. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about her experiences advocating with our members of Congress and trying to be persuasive for things like the Living Donor Protection Act, et cetera. So that ought to be an interesting broadcast. You don't want to miss that.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Thank you. As always, the broadcast here with Father Bob, we will prepare a replay. It will be available for the next couple of weeks. So if you missed the broadcast, you can catch the replay. Be sure you tell your friends. Just real interesting stuff today that you can't normally find in a broadcast situation. So I want to thank Father Bob for coming on. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will see you again next week. So take care.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What did I do with that?